Welcome to What's Trending, your go-to podcast for staying informed about what's trending in the ever-evolving landscape of Westchester and beyond. We are your hosts, Amanda DePalma, Senior Vice President of Events and Development, and Dr. Marsha Gordon, President and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester.
On today's episode, we're excited to welcome Marissa Weidner, Executive Vice President and Chief Corporate Responsibility Officer at Webster Bank. In her role, Marissa is responsible for Webster Bank's community investment strategy and oversees all community-facing activities across the company. She leads a wide range of initiatives focused on community engagement, philanthropy, financial empowerment, government relations, and corporate marketing. Today, we'll be discussing Webster Bank's efforts to raise awareness about fraud prevention for small business, why fraud remains such a significant challenge in today's environment, and the practical steps business owners can take to protect themselves. We'll also explore the resources and support available at Webster Bank to help businesses stay informed and secure. I just want to add in here that Webster Bank has been the Business Council of Westchester's prime financial institution for many, many, many years. So we're especially delighted to have you here, Marissa, to share your insights and expertise on this important topic.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Marsha. And we are very pleased to have the Business Council of Westchester as a longtime client.
What's Trending is sponsored by Webster Bank. Thank you for your support of the BCW Podcast Network.
Webster Moments, turning defining moments into success stories.
Retrofit Vintage Guitars repairs, restores vintage and antique guitars and brings them to market. In order to grow the business, we needed to expand our inventory. I didn't know the first thing about refinancing commercial property. Since we were introduced to Webster, this business has expanded 6 times over. This is serious business banking, and that's really what I needed. Webster is my trusted advisor. There is no other bank I would ever bank with again.
Webster Bank, powering pivotal moments into positive momentum. Learn more at websterbank.com. Webster Bank, N.A. member FDIC, equal housing lender. Webster, Webster Bank, Webster Investments, the Webster Bank logo, and the W symbol are trademarks of Webster Financial Corporation and registered in the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Copyright 2026 Webster Financial Corporation, all rights reserved.
So Marissa, first off, we're so excited to have you with us today. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role at Webster Bank?
Sure, Marsha. Thank you so much for having me here. I like to tell everybody I have the best role at the bank. As Chief Corporate Responsibility Officer, as you noted, I oversee all the community activities, everything from CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act, and fair and responsible banking, to philanthropy, community engagement, government relations, corporate communications, corporate marketing, essentially the reputation of the bank, right? So everything that the group that I have the privilege to oversee on a daily basis is really driving impact in our communities and protecting the reputation of the organization.
Marissa, we were chatting before we started recording the podcast just about how, the concept of fraud, sometimes everybody knows what it is, but they don't really know what it is. And one of the reasons we're speaking today is Webster's focus on helping businesses stay safe from fraud. Can you tell us a little bit about Webster's fraud awareness campaign and how it really supports small businesses?
Sure. So, as we mentioned earlier, so many people think it doesn't happen to me. Right? You hear about the fraud, the statistics are alarming, it's increasing year over year. And you just think, oh, it doesn't happen to me. That's one of the biggest challenges around fraud, is getting kind of in that trap. But at Webster, we're working with businesses throughout our region, everywhere from Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New York. That's our footprint, including right here in Westchester County. And we want to make sure that businesses stay informed and resilient against fraud. As I mentioned, fraud is, continually increasing year after year. It's also evolving, and it's always important to stay on top of the latest trends that are taking place in terms of fraud and understanding what can we do to help prevent it, as small businesses can be more susceptible than larger businesses. So, our goal is simple, really helping businesses, our clients, folks in the communities really understand and how to recognize the risks early on and to take steps to protect their business, themselves throughout the year.
So it seems like we're hearing more about scams and fraud attempts more than ever before. Why is fraud so pervasive today? And what are some of the warning signs businesses should watch out for?
The reality of it is people keep getting smarter, right? Technology is advanced, people keep getting smarter. And there's a variety of different ways that fraud can be, what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say encountered. Yes, different ways that fraud can be encountered. So one of the most common ways is phishing and ransomware. So those are some of the most common frauds to be aware of. Most common threats that we have today. Small businesses are often targeted, like I said before, because they don't necessarily have the same tools and resources that larger businesses have, because they don't have the scale, so they could be more susceptible. And the one thing I think is important to highlight around fraud is it might seem like business as usual until it's not. You don't realize it's fraud until you realize it. And sometimes that can be too late. So that's why we're on this campaign to really raise awareness about the red flags and the risks, and things that we should be on the watch for to try and prevent fraud.
Marissa, you said before, so many people think, oh, this can't happen to me. It's not a problem I need to worry about. But for the small business owner who is listening and thinking, could this happen to me? How could this happen to me? What are some practical steps they can take right now to protect themselves from fraud and bad actors?
One of the most important things I think anybody can do is slow down. So a lot of times when fraudulent activity is taking place, somebody is rushing a person to make a decision. So in the case of a small business, you could be rushed for an approval on a payment, and you think, I have to hurry up and get this thing done because I have a million other things going on as an owner of a small business or somebody working at a small business. But when you feel that pressure, that should be the first red flag to wait a minute, slow down. This is a decision about money. This is a payment. Let me ensure that it's going to the right person, that this is legitimate. A lot of the times you'll get an email requesting payment. That email might not be from a legitimate email source, though it looks like it's from a legitimate email source. One trick that we've learned is just hover over the email address and see, is it in fact the email address of the person that you assume it is? Because when you hover over it, it could look very different. And so oftentimes we just click reply or click approve. So that's one example. Another thing is maybe it does look like it's a regular email address, but what about that email itself or the invoice? Are there typos? Are there things that look out of order? You really have to look critically at everything when you're making decisions around payments for your business. The other thing to be mindful of is small businesses are growing, right? That's the goal, right? For these businesses to continue to grow and scale. But as the businesses are growing and scaling, are we taking the time to ensure our processes are growing and scaling in line with the growth of the business? Because sometimes those controls are outgrown and we need new controls in place. So those are some examples. Other activities that one should look for, or times where businesses can be more susceptible to fraud, because that's often a common question. Well, when do I need to be on alert? First of all, we need to be on alert at all times, right? No matter what, we need to be on alert and vigilant at all times. But when there's times where your company can be more vulnerable are the times to really be watching out for.
So beyond those preventative measures, I know Webster Bank offers resources, tools, support, because it's important to have a team around you. And Webster is an important part of a small business's advisory team, in addition to financial team. So what are some of those resources that you offer to small business owners who want to protect themselves from fraud?
So thanks for asking. Of course, we have some tools that are in place, and I would say the most prevalent fraud that we hear about is check fraud, right? So the first tool that we have in place is called Payee Positive Pay. This really helps protect to ensure when you issue a check, what you write in that check, you then upload that check, it goes to your bank, and then when that check is presented for payment, it's compared to what you initially issued the check as. In other words, did somebody try to tamper with that check? Does the check look different when it's presented for payment than it did when it was issued? That's the first way that we help customers prevent fraud. So you can sign up for that, and it's an automatic detection method against what was issued in the check. The next one is ACH positive pay. So many payments today, as we know, are made electronically. So this enables you to set the rules around which transactions will be allowed to be processed for payment, which can really help block unauthorized activity. And then a third tool that we offer is account reconciliation tools. This really helps businesses monitor their activity and quickly be able to identify anything that's unusual, anything that might require attention. These are some examples of the tools that can be offered at Webster Bank.
Marissa, financial literacy is just of the utmost importance, and I know Webster is really known for its commitment to that financial education. Can you talk a little bit about the bank's efforts to promote financial literacy and education and why that's such an important part of your mission?
Now you're speaking to my heart. So financial literacy is so critical. We need to be able to teach our young people how to be financially empowered. And we can't do that if they don't understand how to make their money work for them. There's basics, right? The basic fundamental tools of, savings and checking and things of that nature. But we have financial literacy initiatives throughout our footprint. We've invested in what we're calling finance labs across our footprint. One of them right here in Westchester County with YPI, Yonkers Partners in Education. Fantastic.
Our favorite members and organizations. Yes.
Yeah, they're a fantastic organization. We did a partnership with them, launched actually our very first finance lab. And a student from that finance lab really said it in the most profound way. I saw her a year after the launch and I asked her, what did you learn? How was it? Give me your experience. And she said, I'm still going to be an engineering major because I haven't switched over to finance. I really love engineering, but I learned something really powerful. And I said, well, what did you learn? And she said, I learned how to make my money make money. And to me, that was the mic drop moment. It continues to be the mic drop moment. That is what we're trying to instill in young people, be able to make financially sound decisions for their future, but also be able to create wealth for themselves and their families.
Very, very, very important. And I know the work that Webster does in our community and throughout the region. And it's transformative. It's transformative for young people. It's transformative for communities. And it's part of economic development, right? So thank you so much for your commitment, Marissa, because I know that is a commitment you've had for a very long time and comes right from your heart. So before we wrap up, are there any new and exciting initiatives coming up at Webster Bank that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, we're very focused on the growth of small businesses across our footprint. We actually just held a small business contest where we were able to provide grants to the winners of that contest, which was very exciting just to hear how profound a small grant can be to a small business to grow and scale. We're continuing to invest in that area. And before we go, one thing I just want to circle back on the fraud prevention, because I think it is really important. I cited some tools. There's obviously key risks. But one of the most important things a business should be mindful of is there's no one solution to prevent fraud. It really requires a layering approach. And you have to train your teams on what to look for, be vigilant at all times, apply the tools that the bank has to offer you, and use it all. And that's how you're going to be best suited to prevent fraud.
Backups to your backups to your backups.
Exactly.
Marissa, thank you so much for joining us today on What's Trending. Your insights on fraud prevention and the steps small businesses can take to protect themselves have been incredibly valuable. We appreciate you taking the time to share Webster Bank's resources and expertise with our listeners.
And Marissa, I want to join Amanda in thanking you for everything that you do throughout your career, and especially here at your wonderful Webster Bank in your great leadership role. It's great to have you as our guest, and we want to thank the bank for being a sponsor of What's Trending. So thank you to Webster Bank, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.
Thank you, Marsha and Amanda. My pleasure.
Be sure to check out the BCW Podcast Network's expansive lineup of shows: Leadership Unleashed, What's Trending, Advocacy and Politics Unplugged, The Member Spotlight, and Nonprofit Voices of Impact. The Business Council of Westchester is the county's largest business membership organization focusing on economic development and advocacy. With over 1,100 members, it is our mission to work for the profitability of our members and the prosperity of the Westchester community. To learn more about the Business Council of Westchester, please go to thebcw.org.